guys, we are back with another episode of the Get Paid to Live podcast. My name is Iffy. He's never ready to introduce himself.
I've never seen a podcast like that.
Like what?
Like interleaved intro
Right.
of host, co-host.
Right.
Like those talk show hosts introduce the show. They're like, I'm Conan O'Brien. Here's the band. Here's the host just kind of introduces everyone, you know? Or like musicians.
We're co-hosts.
But then musicians on stage, like the lead singer will be like, and we got Jesse on guitar. And then Jesse's like,
all right. I'm Iffy.
I could start doing like math equations.
I'm Iffy. And this is my fiance, Shaw.
I thought I was a co-host.
Oh my God. This is our 17th intro. My name is Iffy, and this is my co-host, Shaw, and fiance as well. And
8 years. 8 years together.
8 years. It's actually our...
Not 8 years of fiance, just 8 years together.
Jesus, could you imagine? Yeah, it's our 8-year anniversary. Actually, it was yesterday. And it's also, I think, like a year and a half into our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, it's just more than a year.
Oh,
like a year and a month or something.
Oh, a year and a month? Oh, I guess October. Okay, so not too long, but a lot of anniversaries going on here. But today we thought we would kind of break down a hot topic that I think a lot of people are going to be thinking about, because I think at the end of the year, I don't know if you're like me, I'm always deciding my happiness based on what have I done this year. And if I have not done anything that means anything to me, I'm usually like, next year we're changing that. And that reflection starts before the next year. You have to make that intention the year before. And so this episode is really going to be for those people thinking and reflecting, like, I want to make a change next year. How do I get started? How do I start that life of entrepreneurship, content creation, building my community, like actually living in my purpose and, going towards a life where I get paid to live? Like, how do I actually do that? And I think it's really fuzzy in the beginning because you have all these desires.
It's fuzzy at every point. Like, you master a certain set of things, but then you become aware of like the next level that you're completely ignorant of. And no matter where you are in the journey, there's always that next level that you're completely ignorant of.
Yeah.
So it's always, that next step is always fuzzy. So whether you're just starting out, whether you've been doing it for 5 years, whether you've been doing it for 30 years, at each point there's like you don't even know how to start, but then you figure out how to start on your own. But then you're like, oh, okay, I figured out how to generate value on my own, but how can I empower other people to generate value on my behalf? So now you have employees. Mm-hmm. And then at each stage, it's like, okay, I can teach someone how to code and be productive there, but can I teach someone how to manage like me? Or can I teach someone how to run a company like me?
Yeah.
And so
that's like way,
there's so many levels here, and it's always fuzzy when you're at the start of each of those levels.
Exactly. Which honestly is like my argument, because like if it's gonna be fuzzy for a freaking long time and probably for the rest of your life, like you might as well just get started. I know people kind of debate like, if you're always gonna have to work hard, or if you're always gonna be in a place of confusion, why do it? But I think like you become more confident through each time. I feel like it's like a breakup. I'm sure it never feels amazing, but each time it happens, you're like, I think I can handle the next one. Like, I'm prepared for the next challenge. Mm. And every time you go to the next challenge, you're proud because you're like, I would have never been able to do something like that. Like last year, the fact that I could like get paid well from a piece of content I made was a concept, and now it's something that is a reality. And like, sure, the next level of content creation and figuring out how to like generate even more of an audience is challenging, but I'm happy that I know how to even do the first level, you know. So I think it's worth it, and it's fulfilling for sure. So I think that's definitely something that newbies struggle with, and we're going to talk about kind of like a fundamental and then a tactical framework for how you can get started and how you can actually be that version of yourself. All right, so let's start high level. I personally believe that we are always concerned about the little tactical things a little too early. Like, what platform do I use? What business tools do I need? Or like all of the fluff, the surface level stuff, the stuff you see people talking about on TikTok, on YouTube, like the growth hacks, the growth tools, like stuff like that. I personally think, especially going like a year into this journey, what matters the most is the fundamental items. To me, that has been mission, vision, values. Like every company has a mission, vision, values and could not function without them, I think, successfully. I think every person who needs that, because if you are going to be an entrepreneur and you're starting by yourself, you are essentially the business. So if you don't have your core message or mission figured out, you're kind of going in so many different directions. You're getting pulled by so many different tools
Yeah.
or business ideas or content creation hacks that
Or opportunities.
or opportunities. You get distracted. You don't know where you're going, and you can't serve anyone when you're all over the place. So I think that's the key thing to start with.
Yeah, honestly, I would say values. I guess that just kind of aligns with generally how I like to approach things in more of like a bottom up way as opposed to top down. Because like top down is I have this mission. Now let me work backwards to figure out how to do it.
Right.
But a lot of times, like, I feel we have many different sets of goals and missions and things that we want to do.
Right.
However, the things that we most fundamentally care about, those typically don't change
Yeah.
much.
Is that what a value is? Like, what is a value?
Yeah, the way I define values are the things that you care about. So a mission is what you want to achieve, and then values are the things that you care about. And, you know, they'll definitely have some relationship with one another. So I would say values for me personally are the most important thing. And it's helpful at the beginning when it's like fuzzy what the vision might be or what the mission might be.
Yeah.
You can reflect on the values and then use those to try to nail down at least a vision or the first iteration of the vision.
Sure. No, I think that's a really good point. I also agree. That's actually how I started my journey into entrepreneurship, content creation, was through quitting my job, and it was a values exercise that kind of woke me up. Yeah. And we talk a lot about values in our first episode, actually, because I mean, metaphorically and literally, I think it's just the foundation of everything. And values can be defined differently by people, but you know, essentially it is what you care about the most. It is the most important things to you specifically. And why I like values is because it's such an individual thing, and I'm a big individualist. I think that actually helps us grow when we focus on what we specifically are good at. And I think that's the crux of getting paid to live, is like using your natural or, you know, learned skills and strengths to create the life that you want to see. And when you focus on values, they help you craft that life, because you're focusing on what is most important to you. You're focusing on things that matter to you the most. And I'm not really sure why we kind of like naturally prioritize certain things over the other. Like, if you've taken a values exercise, which we'll link a couple in the description, you're basically like ranking ideas or concepts in terms of like priority for your life. So for me, my top values are freedom, authenticity, creativity, fun, and I think I feel like I'm missing one. Those are like my top 4 or 5. Those essentially like rule my life. If I don't have those, nothing else is making me happy. I'm upset. Like, things are not going my way if those things are not prioritized. So that's what I try to do, especially in this life where I'm trying to get paid to live. I make sure those are at the forefront of my schedule, of my priorities, what I'm thinking about the most. And I think that leads to a happier version of myself. And entrepreneurs, especially in the beginning, they are like, you're usually trying to leave a situation where you don't enjoy the work, or it's not like something's, you're missing something. Like when with me, corporate work didn't have enough of that like creativity or authenticity. I couldn't be myself, and that was really important to me. I didn't have the freedom to like have a shoot one day, have an office day one day. Like, I didn't have that control. So that's why I created this kind of like lifestyle and job where I can prioritize those things. And so I feel like as an entrepreneur, when you get to literally dictate your schedule and your life and what you're doing, literally in the business and your content, whatever, based on your values, you not only create like a more enjoyable situation for yourself, like that is your business, if that makes sense. Like, since my whole day is made up of my values, like my business is also made up of my values. So I think that that's like what's really cool about it, and it kind of eliminates a lot of thinking. Like values eliminate a lot of thinking. It's like, should I do this or should I do this? Well, for me, if freedom is my number one value, I'm going to choose the one that makes me feel the most free. And I think it's good for making decisions in your business. It's good for creating the foundation of your business. Like I think it's like everything. So I feel like everybody should take a values test, and you should know what they are, because if your life does not match your top
Yeah.
values,
You're
if
gonna be unhappy.
you're going to be unhappy. If your business doesn't match your values, you are going to be unhappy. And if you are the business, your business and you will be unhappy. So I agree with that. And I also like what you said about the mission. So we can kind of move on to like what a mission is, because you said like if you don't like kind of know what your values are, it's also kind of hard to know what your mission
Right.
as a person or as a business is.
Yeah. The mission is just the thing you want to achieve, the thing you
Right.
want to set out to accomplish. And I feel like for some people, the mission is crystal clear. For whatever reason, maybe something happened in their life and they're very motivated by that mission or something. Just the way I define it, at least, it's just the thing that you want to set out to do.
Mission, especially as like beginner, is really hard to be like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I think people are like, I don't know my purpose. I don't know my this and that. And I don't think you really know your mission without experimentation.
And I think even though it might be fuzzy, missions are very important because they give you clarity and they allow you to be more efficient in the things you invest energy and resources to.
Right.
Because if you're not super clear on your mission, then if you're not clear on what you're trying to do, you're going to be doing a lot of things that don't necessarily point in the same direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just going to lead to a lot of wasted effort, or even worse, you're like running in two completely opposite directions. Like you're investing energy and resources in opposite ventures.
Exactly.
So you're just like counteracting yourself, you know?
We know what a counteraction is like.
So that's why you'll have people with tons of experience. You know, they have that clarity and they know exactly what they're trying to do. So it looks like, you know, they get paid to do nothing. They get paid to sit on their ass. Like people like maybe like investors or like CEOs or like senior leaders, it's like they just get, I'm doing all the work. They just get to sit on their ass. But it's because they have that very clear idea of what they need to do. So they know exactly the inputs that they need to make in order to get those outputs.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. And I think that's like the dance of getting paid to live, when people are like, what do you do all day? Like that's how you know.
Like when Jeff Bezos was like, I putter around for the first 2 hours of the day. It's like, okay.
So he gets paid billions to putter around. But I do feel like as entrepreneurs, like if you even foresee yourself having a team, or even if you just want to manage your own content, people are going to be watching you and looking up to you. And the reason they look up to you is because you have the vision. You have the vision, you have the mission, and you have the values clearly defined. Whereas, you know, that's why people work for people. It's because they don't have their shit figured out, and clarity. they need that clarity from somebody else so they can add more clarity to their life. So I think one hack I like to do for a mission, because I could, you know, kind of hear, and this is what I used to say, like, what the fuck is my mission? What the fuck do I do about that? One, a mission is something that you're aiming to do. This is something I believe you work your whole life, basically. It's not something you can just like, it's not a task. It's not a goal, because you're really never done. So you have those mission, vision, values, and goals and tasks kind of fall under those. But they are not something that it's like, my mission is to get 100 subscribers. That's not a mission, because it's one that's going to finish at some point, and two, it's kind of like a fixed level. I think mission kind of has this like abstractness to it.
Right. It's open-ended.
Where it's open-ended, and it's something that you will need not only your entire lifetime, but a team of people. Like you
multiple lifetimes.
It's kind of like your change the world statement, because it's something that is going to take a long freaking time and will require different versions of you to achieve that. So just for some examples, if you're wondering like what a mission could look like, I thought like it'd be helpful to have some company ones. Like Microsoft empowers every person and organization to achieve more. That's a bit vague, actually. That's very vague. So, but like I'm saying, like missions are very vague. I think Tesla's is like, you know,
accelerate the planet's like
renewable
thing to
energy.
renewable energy or something like that.
Yeah, like it's very much like you're taking a concept and you're just like trying to like push it forward. TikTok is captures and presents the world's creativity, knowledge, and moments that matter in everyday life. So I think it kind of gives your work purpose for the world. It's not like a selfish
Yeah,
thing
it's
where
like
it's like,
impact.
yeah, it's like what impact are you going to leave on the world, you and your team, you as a person, whatever. And
Yeah.
everybody has one. Everyone has a purpose. Everyone has impact they can add to the world. There's something you've been through, there's something that you know, there's something that you are passionate about that could help the world and help people. And as you keep going in this journey, that mission will get a little bit more refined. It's going to get more impactful. It's going to be more compelling to new people who are coming across it. Because in the beginning, you're like, well, what can I add? What can I do? You start off with what you got. Like in the beginning, my thing was just to help people have more fun and like make content fun for them and like make content feel more authentic. Like it's vague. It's not like probably the mission I'm going to have in a few years, but it was something that I could add. I knew that I could add fun to people's life. I knew I could add, like authenticity and help people be more themselves, because that's something that I maybe just came across a little bit easier. So I think your mission kind of combines what you're really good at, what you love, what you're passionate about, and it also combines an audience. And I think that's what makes it compelling, because if you're just talking about what you're good at and like I know I'm fun and authentic, so I'm gonna get 100 subscribers, no one gives a f about that. Like that doesn't help anybody. But if you're like, I know how to grow an audience, I want to help other people grow an audience, now we're talking about a mission. Like that's something that the world will constantly need help with. And that's why I think like my hack is always like, who am I serving in this mission? Who needs my help right now? And you kind of have to be dramatic like that. Like, what can I offer?
Help creators amplify their impact on the world. Boom.
Period. See, that's a mission statement. And I think when you have problems, because they will come up, if not every single day, like at least once a week, when you have problems in your business, with your content, with whatever you're doing, your community, when you come back to the mission, it's like, okay, I'm not done. I can't give up today because I still have to help creators, find their, what'd you say, like find their vision or something, or like
amplify their impact on the world.
Amplify their, like, I'm not done with that. And I think that's what keeps businesses going, because you're never really done. But there's beauty because you get better in like an endless mission. You get better every step of the way. So I would encourage you, after you take your values test and figure out what is the most important thing to you in your life, is write out your mission statement. Like whatever it is right now, ask ChatGPT to make it a little bit more spicy and compelling. Like write it out, because this is like, if you're not into like the picture vision boards, like this is something that you can kind of make tangible. Yeah. And I know in the beginning you kind of feel like, why me? Who cares what I have to say, or who cares what I have to offer? But when you put it in sort of like a written document, or like you write it down physically, I think you start to take these things a little bit more seriously. Like when you start making your content plan, when you start making your business plan, or like whatever, it takes a silly little idea and it's making it into a real thing that you're now presenting to people. You're not talking about, even in your videos. Like I would introduce, like, my goal is to help you, have more fun with your content, or when you're writing your landing page, my mission is to do this. And now it makes it tangible, and it's not like you're just some beginner nobody. You're actually somebody who can do something and add value to people's life. When you do that and actually implement that through some of the tactical things we'll talk about, you'll start to hear it back. Like people are telling you that you help them amplify their voice and they're like, or their content, and you're like, whoa, this mission is actually real. And it's like, yeah, it's because you took it seriously and wrote it down first. One of my favorite things, a part of this like high level framework, is vision.
Well, to define vision first, I would say, so we talked about the things you care about, and which are your values, your mission, which is the thing you want to achieve. I would say the vision is like, what does that look like? So literally like a visual thing. So like, what does that look like? For whatever reason, I've always had this image of like this modern industrial looking like co-working slash office kind of space, and it's just like a place where entrepreneurs can come together and like build businesses, like make their ideas a reality. And like you have this ecosystem of like different people and experiences and backgrounds, so everyone can kind of support each other, but everyone's like an individual, everyone
Yeah.
has their own business. Like you don't necessarily have to hire a digital marketer because the entrepreneur next to you that they've been doing that for 10 years. So you can just like have a conversation with them, learn what you need, and then
Incubator station.
yeah, something like that. So I've kind of had this like picture in my head for a while, but I don't know what the context is
How long
necessarily.
have you had that particular vision in your
Ever
mind?
since we did BWG, so that was like 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
like
when we started it,
yeah.
that was honestly that was probably the first iteration of both of our businesses, like in a
Hmm.
way.
Yeah,
Like it was his idea to start a little collective
yeah. You thought it
where
was a terrible
at
idea.
first I was not about it. I was very comfortable freelancing and just making money. But we kind of got together because we were both very interested in like creating, just even if we didn't explicitly say it, like businesses, like creating something more in our life. So we knew that was still something that was like very much what we both wanted to do. But in the beginning I was like, nah, I just figured my, ropes with freelance. I'm not trying to start another thing. But he was very persistent on this idea of us like having a weekly meeting or
Yeah, just a
something.
weekly chat and talk about what we're working on in our businesses and whatnot.
So funny looking back, and we ended up doing that, and we actually had a friend a part of it who was also an entrepreneur, and we would chat like every week, I feel like, just about our ideas. And
And give each other feedback and a
yeah.
different perspective, which was
Hmm.
helpful.
And it was really nice. I mean, looking back, did we probably waste a lot of time? Yes, but it
It was
helped.
fun.
It was nice. It was a place for our ideas to be real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like that mix of productive and entertaining and just like
Exactly.
fun. So I feel like it was a nice blend of that, which I enjoyed.
So that's when this kind of like incubator business
Hmm.
community kind of thing came to your
Yeah,
mind.
so again, it's not clear like the goal that vision is accomplishing, like what
Right.
actually the mission is,
Right. Yeah.
but that's what I see in
Mhm.
my head. So it's like, the vision is important because it allows you kind of like a mission. It helps you make decisions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it kind of
Yeah.
helps you kind of orient your efforts and your direction because, you know, even if you have a clear mission and clear values, there still might be ambiguity in how you should make a decision. There still
Right.
might be like, oh, do I do path A or path B
Exactly.
because they're both aligned? Maybe the vision kind of helps you. Like, for example, if my mission was to like empower technical professionals to launch their businesses and whatever, and there was one path that was really investing in like a fully virtual version of it, and there was another path
Right.
that was kind of more local
Mhm.
and allowed for like the brick and mortar version.
Mhm.
Maybe in that setting it's like, okay, I'm gonna go with option B because that aligns more closely with my vision, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think a vision can, like, in my experience, I mean, there might be other ways people come to it, but I feel like it's either like super innate, like you were saying, it kind of like came to your mind, like you didn't force it, it was just there. Or I could see, and I've experienced where you have seen it through other people's lives or through what they're doing.
Mm.
And I think either way, you have that moment where you're like, why do I feel so pulled to this thing? Like, why do I feel so attracted to this thing? And that's where I kind of get woo woo with like not only visions, but like entrepreneurship and getting paid to live. It's because it feels like it just, you didn't even choose it. Like it chose you before you even knew. And I think like there's a reason that you continuously have that same vision, even if it's in very fuzzy, or even if it's you don't really know what it is or why. Like you know that every time you see something like that, you're attracted to it. Every time I saw an influencer or a content creator like
Yeah.
traveling, making content every day, editing photos, editing videos, I felt pulled to that.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like I need to figure out how I can do that. Well, not only that, it's just like I love doing that stuff. It's fun for
Yeah.
me. But I felt immediately pulled to that. And then as I kind of was exploring that, like actually taking action on that vision I saw by whatever I could, editing my own videos or editing my own photos or having a photo shoot I made up, I started to see more and more options or examples. Like now there's these creators who also have businesses,
Right.
and there's creators who have teams, and it's like, whoa, I didn't even know that world was available. And I think it was because I took action on that first vision. And then I kept seeing more and more options. And then slowly the entrepreneur side started to get a little bit stronger. Cause I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what my business would be. I didn't have like some special talent since I was a kid. And I was like, what would my business offer? I had no idea. But then I started to see these creators who also had these products they would sell, or that they would have these services they would offer to their existing audience. And I was like, wait, I love the idea of having an existing audience who cares about you, not just your product, but you and your life. And then they also get to be a part of your evolution of your product journey. I thought that was so genius and cool. And I was like, wait, I want that. And then the vision started to like come together. Not only did I see myself traveling and, creating content, but also like meeting up and having a business meeting. And like these visions would just kind of
Yeah,
come as I was going along this journey. And like your vision, your values, I think they should be staying the same, but your mission and your vision, I feel like kind of evolve as you grow, and maybe your values change. I mean, people do that too.
for
Like
sure.
they, I think they're a little bit more permanent, but I think they definitely also evolve as well. But I think your vision can grow. So like, don't limit
Right.
what your vision is,
But what you said, I think, is a good heuristic of identifying your vision is of like reflecting on the things that you're drawn toward and
Yeah.
attracted to, or the things that you enjoy or you kind of feel the most fulfillment from.
Yeah.
Like for me, what you reminded me of, like running around and like doing like business, like having meetings and things like that. Like I feel that also was part of this vision of like this, you know, co-working space, entrepreneur space kind of thing, where I don't know, I just enjoy the days where like it's like completely packed and it's like one thing after another,
Yeah.
and I'm like running from one thing to like this place to over there and doing coffee and then coming
Yeah.
back and then coming like doing a dinner or something like that. I don't know, I just like being busy, so that's
Yeah.
definitely part of the vision as well.
Yeah, and I think doing more and doing honestly anything makes a lot of these things very clear.
Yeah.
Because to your point about when you're having like back-to-back meetings and having a dinner and this and that, for me, that's something I really enjoy as well. And I feel like my first experience of that was when we did our event planning job, the job we always talk about, which this is where we met. We were both like the presidents or executive chair of the organization at our university that planned the on-campus events, and that role was very, I would say, like you were just busy. You had a lot to do because you were overseeing like 6, 7 people, and we were students as well. We had class, and I would remember just going back from like class to a meeting
Hmm.
to this and that because it was on campus, and I would just be running around. And then I also had like my personal thing, so I had like a ambassador program. I was kind of like a little influencer for Amazon Prime student, and I would like have events, and I would have to like get lunch with someone, and I was just like, wow, like I'm so tired, but I feel on fire. Like I feel so good.
Yeah.
And I remember even with one of my freelance jobs, this was like the last full-time-ish freelance job I had. I was traveling with them and I was getting to do shoots in different states. So I was like organizing the shoot, basically like creative directing, and it would take all day, and I had to organize the logistics and the location and the videographer. And we were in New York, which I mean, cherry on top. And I was like, I love this. Like I have not done a lick of work. I have so much to do. But I mean, no, I was doing a lot of work, but like there was so much other work I needed to do. And I just love that feeling. And I was like, I don't, it's kind of like the feeling of doing it validated the vision I've always had.
Mm.
So it was kind of like I can imagine a world where I was doing that, but doing something even similar to that and feeling the vision, it just made it like, this is what I meant to
And I
do.
think that's a great example of the utility of a vision,
Yeah.
because if you have no idea what to do, but you have this picture in your head of, oh, my ideal day like would be like this, like
Hmm.
it's like super packed and you're super busy and you're running from one place to another, that kind of gives you a hint of what you need to do, in
Right.
that, oh, should I just kind of sit around
Yeah. Do
and
nothing or not do this.
not like kind of try to minimize what's on my schedule, or should I try to like get more things on my schedule and just like do more, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
which option has a higher likelihood, or at least perceived likelihood, of achieving that vision, or at least moving
Yeah.
you toward that vision?
No, totally. And I feel like the vision and the kind of like with all of these things, like you're going to be like, we're all at points where we don't have access to that next level, or we don't even know how to get there. And I think it's okay to be like, working for someone or getting experience in some aspect of life that interests you.
Yeah.
Like in that freelance job, even though I wasn't a full-time entrepreneur, I was getting to really exercise that content creation part of myself that I was really drawn to. And that job offered that kind of exposure to me. And it also offered traveling. That wasn't the full picture, but it's a part of the picture. So I was getting that experience, and that also helped validate the bigger vision, even if it's not like that job wasn't exactly what I would want to do my whole life. So it's okay to be working for someone or doing something where it's not the full thing, but it's part of it, because that helps validate the vision.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even as we're building, we're having to like pick up the job here and there just to keep the bigger vision going. Like I had to do client work a few months ago. That wasn't a part of the vision, like the big time vision, but it helps support what I want to create. Yeah. And it was more aligned than working at like a restaurant, let's just say, because it was like content strategy. If that makes sense. Okay. And the last thing I'll say about vision, in terms of like implementing like basically options and how to like make this tangible. Cause I think with all of these things, writing it down, visualizing it, having it somewhere tangible is important. There's a lot of different ways. Like people do a vision board, so they look at images and get inspired, or they look at people online, take screenshots, like whatever, put things together. A lot of people are just like consuming. So you're consuming what you enjoy. You have dedicated time to like learn from people you look up to. There's plenty of platforms these days, like Masterclass. You can learn from like these really successful people. You can watch a lot of successful people who already have free videos on their YouTube channel. Like go out of your way to get that vision and put it in your brain, if that makes sense. Like learn what you like. If you're like, I have no hobbies, I don't like anything, like learn, try things, sign up for a class. Like there's a lot more free options than you think. You're just not like going after and seeing what you like. And I would say the last thing that is really good is talking to people who have the life that you want or have some aspect of your life. Sure. Because you get really inspired, like, oh, we're not that different, I can do this too. And then they kind of expand your vision because they show you like how to get there and like what avenues you can take. So I think just making it tangible is also really important, because if an idea is in your head, all it will be is an idea.
So I feel like this is a good segue to the more tactical side. So we talked about at a high level these three things that are helpful when you're first getting started.
Right.
And then you were getting into the bit of the tactical stuff on how you crafted your vision and discovered these things. So let me put it like this. If you could start over on your current journey in 2025, what would you do? How would you start over in 2025?
I know we literally like talked about this before the episode, but all of a sudden it just hit different. If I were to start over, in specifically my dream, my vision is to be a full-time independent entrepreneur and content creator.
Wow.
I think I would have trusted myself more. And I know that is so hard to do in the moment, because you think your ideas are what you have to offer is not enough. And I think that's a beginner problem. And this is why people don't even start with a mission, vision, values, is because they think, why does mine matter? Who cares about mine? But you have to understand, every business that you're looking at, every successful person you're looking at decided that their shit was enough. That's all that happened. It wasn't that they had to like, I'm sure they had to learn immense skill and they had to, try new things, but all of it at the foundation was trusting themselves enough. And I think what I did for a while was I was kind of thinking I needed to get something from someone else. So I needed to, before I really like went in on my full ideas, which was to create content about my lifestyle, what I believe in, my values, the hacks and tricks I use to make content, the foundation that goes behind like my life and what I want to see for my life. I thought I needed to learn, like work under other entrepreneurs. Like I had to, like there was like a time limit in my head of like, you have to work for them at least for this long before you're ready to start your own thing. I spent so much time working under people that I didn't have enough time to really like execute my own vision. And I think I would have just kind of cut that off, like really put myself in a time limit and be like, that doesn't matter what you know or what you have, put out as much valuable content as
Right.
possible, not just content about silly things, because that was also part of the problem. The reason I was putting out content about silly things, like just some random joke I'm making or whatever, was because I was giving myself too much time under working
Right,
under
right,
other
right, yeah,
people,
yeah.
that I was like, yeah, let's just see how this does. I was kind of being lazy about the approach because I didn't believe in it hard enough. And so I would work on putting out valuable content, applying it to an actual audience, doing this where I'm like, I am going to pick an audience and I'm going to work for them. This is my mission, to work for them. Because the whole reason I went to this whole like content consulting journey was because I thought that just made sense. Again, there was this time limit before I have to do this before I do this. Like, this is just the rule. You have to be a consultant before you can make a real product. Like, I had this imaginary, I think we both did, kind of have like this imaginary timeline. Like, you can't just create a product. You need to like learn how to be a really good freelancer consultant before you can just make a product. And the reality is, like, when you're making a product, you're always starting from zero. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, to my knowledge, like, if you want to start a product, you start with starting a product, because you're gonna be a beginner anyway. And I would have just done that early. I would have made my content more focused and valuable earlier, and I would have made products as soon as possible and put them out in combination with my content. Essentially, what I'm doing now, I would have done a year ago, and the only thing that's changed is my confidence that there's no other option than to just do it.
Right.
And I think that was the problem. I kind of spent so much time. I think the consuming is good. I think learning from people, talking to people is good. But at the same time, simultaneously, you are still putting out product. You are still putting out valuable content. Whatever valuable is to you at the time, put it out in a way that's not just like I'm gonna try to do this in like a lazy approach. Do it in a real approach, as in, if somebody, if the insider news articles were to like report your video, what would you want them to be reporting a video on? Like, what do you think would actually help people, or a past version of you? And be confident about that. I think I wasn't confident because I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about content. I don't know anything about entrepreneurship. Like, who cares about my stuff? So I was making content about kind of like silly things, or things that are just fun for me. They weren't helping anyone because I didn't think I could help anyone. But when I started making content about what I actually know, which I knew all the same stuff. I just wasn't confident that I could make an impact. And I think now I know that it's enough. So I would have just approached it faster, and I wouldn't have wasted time under other people, working for other people, and just procrastinating, I guess.
So being more confident early on,
Yeah.
focusing on value-driven content early on instead of just like kind of frilly or content that the type of content you consume.
Yes.
But you're not a huge influencer with a big following, so it doesn't necessarily make sense for you to make content like them. Like, you have to make content for your level. And then shipping out products, like digital products or whatever kind of product,
literally anything,
like the thing that you're trying to create long term, just do it earlier.
And I think that's a really good point. I think that lazy content approach came from, oh, this is what the big girls or the big boys are doing in the field, you're not one of them. I think just,
and also there might be more nuance in how they're creating that content. Of course they have advantages because they have huge audiences and they have a brand. So like Mr. Beast can put Mr. Beast in his title and that'll increase the stickiness, but I can't put my name in a title and increase its stickiness.
Exactly. You know? Or like, even I used to, because I love lifestyle content, I love vlogs, but in the beginning, the truth of the matter is, and I'm saying this as an absolute, which I typically don't say, but it's the truth, unless you just have a phenomenally interesting life by nature, no one cares about you and what you're up to. Why should they care? You make them care about your values, about your mission, about the vision you see. And so
the people care about their problems.
Oh, they care about exactly. They care about their problems. And I think when you focus on the customer, what we're saying is focus on their pain. What are they struggling with? And I think instead of making my vlog like, oh, this is just what I did today as a content creator, cool, no one cares. But instead it's like, hey, I never knew how to make a thumbnail today I learned how to make a really good thumbnail and I make it vlog style. That just has potentially more ways to reach people than making it about just a typical day in the life. Again, maybe your stuff
Yeah.
could be sticky, but it's not always the case.
Of course, you can make those work too,
Yeah.
because I've seen things blow up kind of like day in the life as a solo founder or like
Right. It
so
could be entertaining.
entertaining and kind of aligned with people's visions because they're like, oh, I want to be a solo founder, or even, oh, that just sounds interesting. I wonder what their life is like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
there's a way to make that.
But see, like that's what I was watching. I was watching the people who have like, I was like, oh, I'm always entertained by other people's day in the life. But it was like people who live in like really cool cities
Right.
and they already like have an established career. And
But
it's
like, I guess you could have done like day in the life as a corporate data analyst or something like
right.
that.
I mean, that could have been, it's just how you frame it.
Mhm.
But I wasn't framing it in the past on a problem or
Mhm.
some kind of entertaining solution. I was just framing it as
Yeah.
like, oh, the bigger creator just showed casually a casual day in their life. They've added value to their audience in ways, or
Yeah.
maybe to their own life that maybe I haven't done.
For sure.
And I just need to like create my own version of that. And I think that's important. You can't just look at the people who've made it and be like, oh, they can do that. They can do that for other reasons that may not be obvious to you or may not just be here for you yet.
Right.
And I think focusing on pain points is another
Mhm.
thing. Like when I'm creating the content, what am I solving by putting this content out? This product, even if it's a PDF, even if it's a digital product or it's a physical thing, who am I serving? What am I relieving from somebody's day? I think I would have focused on that earlier. And I do think the mission, vision, values, if you kind of get clear on that, they do help you solve problems and not just frilly, silly stuff that you want to do.
Right.
You know, what would you have done differently if you were to start over?
Okay. If I were to start over, I don't know if I would necessarily do anything differently because I feel like the approach makes a lot of sense. So I would say, like, for me, I started with the values. And my two main values are growth and freedom.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I knew, that's helped me between the decision of like working full time and being an entrepreneur because I felt like I would have a lot more freedom and I would grow a lot more as an entrepreneur. I would say if I was still working at my job, not even I had quit my job. So like for most people, they're still working a job or they're like freelancing or something like that. But like that's the bulk of their income and they have to keep doing that before like completely pivoting into another thing.
Yeah.
I would say the side hustle approach, like I would do that. If I was working a full-time job right now, I would start with side hustles.
Yeah.
So
it's very tangible. You can just get going.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would either just start making content because no matter what, being a content creator is very valuable as an entrepreneur. There are tons of parallels between content creation and product development. It involves thinking about the customer, like who's the audience, who's this for, what problem does this solve, even if it's like entertaining content.
Yeah.
How to make things sticky. They like even mathematically and statistically, content and how it spreads and product and how they spread are identical. They're like the same phenomenon. So understanding how to make good content creates a lot of skills that transfer to how to make a good product or service. So I would say content creation for sure. And I would just start posting on YouTube because YouTube's the biggest like content platform there is.
Yeah.
So I would start there, but it could be anything. Like if I didn't want to do YouTube, I started YouTube and Medium at the same time. So I'd probably do that again, but you can do anything. Like you could start a blog or you can start on YouTube or you can start on TikTok, like whatever.
I say like start with what you're good at.
Yeah.
And also
like what you consume the most. Cause I'm
consuming
I was consuming mostly on YouTube and Medium.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I'll just make content on
you
those
have
platforms.
a natural bias for that and your brain kind of knows has better taste with things you consume often. Also what goes well with your mission and stuff, like how is that going to be best shown?
Okay, but if I could start over, so I would probably just like nix this whole like consulting freelancing path because that's so similar to working a full-time job unless that's the business you're trying to grow. Unless you're trying to build an agency where you're just hiring people, selling their time at a markup, and that's how you make money, but you're not doing any of the development work yourself. If that's what you want, then start like I would, if that's what I wanted, I would uh, start as a
Do
consultant.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
But that's not really interesting to me or appealing to me. So for me, the goal, I guess if I was making money and I was making content,
Hmm.
I would just um start, I would jump to product development, kind of like you. I would
Yeah.
just like build these like projects. Like every month I would build a product and ship it. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And that's basically what I'm trying to replicate now. But instead of having my main income come from a full time job, I'm trying to get my main income to come from this course, this AI Builders Boot Camp that I'm doing.
Hmm.
So I want that to be the steady stream, that to, at this point, it's taking up a lot of time because I'm like, I just did the first one and I'm
Yeah.
building up the material. But hopefully, over time, that can go down to 10 hours a week. And then I can kind of get back to this like launching products every month.
Yeah.
But most people working a full-time job, even though it's like 40 hours a week, lot of people, especially in tech, they don't work 40 hours a week. They probably work like
20.
20 to 30 hours a week. I would learn stuff about AI because that's my field. Learn stuff about AI. I would make content about that. And then I would build projects or products that solve a specific problem for a specific customer. And
Hmm.
then I would make content about that too.
Yes.
And so that way I've kind of like aligned everything. So it's like I'm just the AI guy, like building products and sharing how I do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I do at night, and then by day, like my full-time income comes from this full-time role.
Right.
And that also kind of gives you some credibility, especially if you're working at a company. So like a lot of the
Exactly.
YouTubers, they'll say like X metadata scientist, X Google data engineer, like they have these like names behind them. But even if you say like I work as a AI engineer at whatever company that's recognizable and I'm doing this on the side,
Yeah.
I think that also helps your
Brand.
brand. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like experimentation on both of our sides, experimentation and like faster, like just
Yeah,
experimenting
just like,
faster.
only in retrospect could I have realized that freelancing and consulting just is
Same.
is a waste of time
Yeah,
for the most
especially if
part.
you want to go down a product
Hmm.
based business or,
Yeah.
yeah, like, yes.
That's just for me because I feel like my vision has always been to build a product and then build a team around that product and grow it. And I
Hmm.
feel like that's a lot of people's visions as being an entrepreneur. And I think that is kind of aligned with this vision of like you have multiple entrepreneurs all helping each other in
Exactly.
this ecosystem kind of thing.
Yes, and I think the kind of like experimenting faster thing plays into the vision heavily because that's whatever your vision is. Like just experiment on that vision faster. I used to think that before I could execute the exact vision in my head, which was to be a full-time content creator where I'm traveling and podcasting and making videos and having products on the side, I thought that I have to do something before I can do that. But if I were to go back, I would execute specifically on that vision because consulting does not fit that vision. And if I was using my vision as a way to like make decisions, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have worked for people because it doesn't make sense with a vision. And I was making decisions based on like, oh, I can do this or I'm going to make money from it. But if it does not fit the vision, why are you doing it? I would have taken my vision and my mission a lot more serious, and that would have made me get do things that were directly in the picture and help people with real problems faster
Yeah.
based on whatever I know and whatever I'm good at. There's little things that already. I knew about freelancing a year or two ago. I knew how to freelance. I knew how to make videos a year or two ago. I should have been making content about that. I should have been
Yeah.
making products about that a year ago. I just didn't think that I could. And I think it's just giving yourself
Right.
permission
And I
to do
think
it.
the key thing there is that you don't have to be an expert in the thing. You just need to be one or two steps ahead of your audience.
Exactly.
And oftentimes that person who's just one or two steps ahead of you is a better teacher than the person who's 10
Yeah.
steps ahead of you. So the person who is an expert, because it's been like 5 or 10 years since they were in your
Yeah.
shoes, while the person who's just one or two steps ahead of you, they can still feel that pain that you are feeling right now
Exactly.
because it was just you were them like 6, 12 months
And
ago.
they probably have the same resources that you have right
Yeah.
now. And
Right.
I think that's what's good. It's like, you're probably going to see these beginner entrepreneurs and creators making ugly PDFs, making ugly products. It's not the most nice to look at, or it doesn't function the best, but that's the point. Like,
Hmm.
you don't need it to be the best to start. I
Yeah.
used to think I have to have this certain platform. I have to sell my digital product to Stand Store, and I have to do. You don't have to. Drop it in the description of the YouTube. That's good enough. Like, put it in a Google Doc. I don't care if it's solving a problem. It's good enough.
Right. You can't
Um,
keep a good product down.
you can't get, and you can always evolve and iterate on it.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I think experiment faster. So if you were struggling to get started, think about, what can I do today? What is the easiest thing I can do right now that fits my vision, that is aligned with the mission, and it's, guardrailed by my values? You will be on the path to that entrepreneurship, like whatever life you see, a lot faster. So
Wow.
I
2025, baby.
2025. Cheers, yo.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for watching. Let us know if you have any questions or specifics about getting started. We're happy to keep
Yeah.
talking about this, and we'll see you in the next episode.